Member from Skeena.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And as the member, Newton mentioned, I'd like to ask some questions with regards to the hunting allocation issue, which, of course, as the Minister well knows, is very controversial, especially since his announcement, I guess, about 10 days before Christmas, which certainly took many people by surprise, although the Minister has gone on the record and said that both the guide outfitters and the BC resident hunters were apparently well aware of what was coming down the line. I guess they didn't get the memo. I'd like to just open up by explaining to the Minister, and we've seen some comments made in the legislature during question period, and I don't think those answers necessarily sort of allayed the fears of BC resident hunters. In fact, I think in some respects it sort of fanned the flames, especially when the Minister alluded to the fact that, oh, well, you know, it's only about 60 animals or 40 animals. I think the issue here, of course, is not about the specific number of animals in these decisions. The issue here is about percentages, and it's about a move from what is a public resource that is accessed by the British Columbia public, as opposed to having more access to foreign hunters who, of course, come here and are dealt with through the commercial sector. Essentially, what people are really upset about is what they perceive as a continued privatization of a public resource. I think we'd all agree here that we are elected as BC MLAs to look after the interests of British Columbians, first and foremost. And we do not want to see, certainly nobody in British Columbia, whether they are hunter or not, wants to see a continued slide towards taking away the ability for British Columbia citizens to access the woods and to participate in hunting, see that lessened and given away to people who come from outside of the country. We certainly don't object. No one objects to the fact that there is a viable commercial sector. It brings economic value. But at the end of the day, this is a public resource, and we don't want to see it privatized. So, Honourable Speaker, I think something that we can all agree on, and the Minister has spoken about this, is that when you're looking at this issue, conservation comes first and foremost. Everybody agrees on that, and so do we. People also agree on the fact that after conservation comes First Nations rights. We all agree on that. It's in the Constitution. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court, and everyone agrees on that. So the challenge then comes when we are dealing with the balance between giving access to BC residents versus the commercial sector. Would the Minister agree with the assertion that this is an issue about privatization and about access for BC residents, first and foremost? Would he agree to that?
Minister.
So thank you, Chair, and thank you to the member opposite for the question, following up on question period approach. But right, no, I get, first of all, just want to go back to the point that the member opposite appeared to assert that decisions made before Christmas or at that time were a surprise or caught people off guard. The member opposite should know that is clearly not the case. This has been a long process of discussion over many years, but even most recently over a very intensive process of consultation with the key stakeholders around the allocation formula. People stakeholder groups directly involved with our ministry staff and in a process to reach agreement. Key stakeholders at the table through that process, and as I pointed out previously, agreement was not forthcoming from that process. There were respective positions coming out of that. Both parties, though, did say that as a result of not being able to reach agreement and not having that common position coming out of that they would prefer and suggested and recommended that this process should be set by an allocation split and set in legislation or regulation, and in order to provide two things. One is to be able to settle it and to move on and be able to look at the the broader wildlife management issues and to work going forward, and also to provide certainty for all parties in it. So nobody would have been and should have been surprised that that decision was forthcoming and was going to be made, because both parties were asking for that to be made. Now, they had different perspectives on what the decision should or should not have been in that process, but nobody should be surprised that we were to the point where we needed to make that decision, and that there was recent meetings leading up to that decision where I consulted with the groups in final process on that before announcing the decision, and the decision was communicated to them, created reactions, some adjustments were made. But so that's addressing that point. In terms of what is this, or do I perceive this to be a privatization of the resource? Clearly not. We have had a guide outfitting commercial industry here in British Columbia for hundreds of years. We've had a hunting sector here for hundreds of years as well in British Columbia, both providing important economic contributions, both being able to access an allocation or a portion of the resource. Guide outfitters do not own the resource. They have a right to guide and to provide opportunity for a certain portion of that resource. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed. It doesn't mean that they own those animals. So it's not private to that respect. British Columbia hunters, this is something that's not unique to British Columbia. British Columbia hunters travel around the world to participate in hunting opportunities in other jurisdictions and things with resources that are in other countries. So it's a common process. The resident hunters themselves in British Columbia bring in non-residents to hunt with them as well to the resource. So this is about ensuring that having a resource that is there, that is plentiful in British Columbia. The opportunities here in British Columbia are very, very world renowned and respected in terms of the variety, the cross section, the species, the opportunities tied in with the spectacular province that we have. So this is about a formula or a allocation that shares that resource and provides those opportunities for the benefit of British Columbia after those other very important considerations are placed off the top that the member opposite represented: conservation, First Nations for sure, key principles, and a principle that maintains a principle of resident hunter priority in terms of the greater share of that resource. The argument is, what is the appropriate level of priority in maintaining that policy? It doesn't mean that resident hunter priority doesn't mean that it's exclusive to that component of the industry. It means you're finding a share or a balance in access to that resource.